what is actually taking place in the National Stock Exchange.
Searches are being conducted on the premises of former NSE CEO Chitra Ramkrishnan. In fact, SEBI had accused her for leaking confidential information to mysterious Himalayan yogi.
Yogi, who has also been confirmed to be the same individual as Anand Subramanian by EY and NSE.
Perhaps one of the biggest stories of possible financial fraud has hit the National Stock Exchange, India's largest stock exchange.
Hi everybody! In February 2022, the former Group Operating Officer of the National Stock Exchange, Mr. Anand Subramanian, was arrested by the SEBI in its probe into something called the colocation scam. This scam is said to be so huge that the beneficiaries are suspected to have made 50 to 100 crore rupees extra profits every single day for 2 to 3 years. And the worst part is that while every single media house has been talking about this Himalayan yogi Baba, barely anyone is actually telling us how was this scam executed in the first place. Which is why in this episode today we are going to explain to you how does the NSE fundamentally make money, how did the scammers find a way to game the system, and most importantly, how did it silently affect investors like you and me. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community where millions of curious learners come together to take premium classes from famous creators and industry leaders. From marketing to video editing to UI UX design, they have it all. Last time, I took a class from Ali Abdal about being productive, and I learned how time management affects productivity and how it has to be done effectively. And this month, I took a class from Nathaniel Drew on content creation. I learned how to determine your individual value as a creator and how to overcome your securities in this big bad world of social media. This class will teach you how to evolve your content with time as you grow as a creator. The best part about Skillshare is that it is an ad-free platform and works on a subscription model. This means that just like when you pay for Netflix, you get access to all the shows on the platform. At Skillshare, you get access to thousands of classes all at once. This includes Indian creators like Alicia Souza's illustration class, Ekta Chaudhary's gardening class, and a lot more. This subscription will cost you less than 1800 rupees a year, which comes down to less than 150 rupees per month, that is lesser than the cost of a Starbucks coffee. For thinkschoolers, Skillshare is giving a 1-month free trial if you use the custom link in the description. This is applicable only for the first 1000 people, so go ahead, click the link below and explore the wonderful things that Skillshare has to offer. Before we deep dive into the NSE scam, first thing you need to understand is how does the National Stock Exchange make money? So as usual, let's try to understand this using a simple story. Let's say thinkschool wants to raise 10 crore rupees with 2 lakh shares at 500 rupees per share. For this, we would approach the National Stock Exchange. And when we do, the NSE will charge us something called the listing fee for putting up thinkschool stocks on its exchange. Then, it will charge us a processing fee at the end of fundraising. This way, just like thinkschool, there would be hundreds of companies that would approach the NSE to list their stocks. This listing and processing fee together accounts for nearly 3% of NSE's revenue. Apart from that, NSE may also guide me and Parsh with the listing price. That is, they may tell us that 500 rupees per share is better or 1000 rupees per share is better. For this service, NSE would charge me something called the book building fee. Book building nearly accounts for 0.3% of the total business revenue of NSE. So considering all this, let's say thinkschool goes for an IPO and all of our shares get subscribed. After raising this 10 crore rupees, NSE gets a transaction fee for facilitating the trade. This transaction fee is what forms a significant portion of NSE's earning and forms nearly 74% of their business volumes. Apart from that, NSE also invests and earns interest income and has other sources of income that contribute to nearly 17% of their business volumes. And lastly, they earn from something called the co-location charges that form nearly 5% of the business volumes of NSE. And this is precisely where the scam happened. So the question is, what is co-location and how did the scam happen? You see guys, the stock exchange has data servers that relay the stock prices and market data in real time. But the catch over here is that there is a slight lag of a few seconds that happens between the actual price and what we see on screen. And since the stock price may vary every second, timing and every small difference in price is extremely critical to make profits. Now to retail investors like you and me, a share price difference of 30.15 rupees and 30 rupees may not make much of a difference because we might barely invest 30,000 rupees, so the difference is just 150 rupees or just 5 shares. But in case of hedge funds, wherein they invest 300 crore rupees at once, this 15 paise of difference may mean losing out on the purchase of thousands of shares and a straight out difference of 1.5 crore rupees. This is the cost of 1 second and 15 paise of difference. Now the NSE understood this pain point very well. So on August 2009, the NSE said that it would offer something called co-location facilities to the stockbrokers who are willing to pay extra money. What this meant is that the brokers could place their IT servers right next to the NSE servers for a simple fee. This way, the prices broadcasted by the NSE's trading system would first reach the brokers whose servers were the closest to the NSE servers. So if the price fluctuates from 30 rupees to 30.15 rupees, the premium brokers would know it first and then the normal brokers would be updated. Now was this illegal? Well, not really, but it was definitely unfair to those brokers who could not afford it. So the non-colocation brokers would receive the prices with a little bit of lag, and this lag would be anywhere between a few milliseconds to a second or maybe even more. And depending on the physical distance from the exchange's server, you actually lost out on time and eventually money. But everything was still fine until now. Now everyone would assume that all colocation brokers would have gained from this system, right? Well, not really, because something strange happened between 2010 to 2015. As it turns out, a whistleblower came up with a critical complaint that actually started the NSE saga. Now let's see what this exactly means. If you look at the functioning of the NSE back then, the NSE servers used to transmit data, or in this case, the share price data was transmitted to multiple servers, wherein the brokers were actually logged in. Now usually, when it comes to tech companies like Google, these companies have hundreds, if not thousands of servers that cater to the huge amount of user data from all across the world. So to regulate this traffic, they have something called a load balancer. This tool constantly looks for the least loaded server and allocates the user accordingly. So if I'm searching something on Google, Google has hundreds of servers to which it can allocate my load to. And the load balancer will first check which server has the least traffic and will allocate that server to me accordingly. This way, Google servers are managed efficiently, and at the same time, I as a user can get my search results quickly because of less traffic in my server. But you know what, guys? Strangely, in this case, this load balancer was not installed earlier in NSE, and these servers seem to have needed manual intervention for operation. So in reality, there were actual people who were turning on and off the servers. And instead of automated allocation, in NSE, the brokers who logged in first to the server would by default stay in front for the rest of the day and could have the first shot at the trade. So what did the brokers do? Through insider information, the brokers found out which server would be started first, and they would latch onto that server to get the first mover advantage. Some brokers also figured out that there was an advantage of being on the server with the least amount of load, or in simple words, the server with the least number of trading members logged in. So you know what? They would latch on to that server by which their trades would be executed faster than the members who were logged onto the crowded servers. And in some cases, these brokers purposefully crowded other servers so that the other brokers could not execute the trade faster. This is where, ladies and gentlemen, the scam actually happened. As per a complaint received by the market regulator from a whistleblower, OPG Securities was this entity that used the systems at the National Stock Exchange to get an unfair advantage by hiring someone called Nagbhushan Bhatt. This guy was working with Omnisys technology, and this was done to figure out which server was working better. These allegations also state that there was an arrangement between the staffer from the NSE data center named Jagdish Joshi, and this guy would inform these brokers about the time when the servers would start, by which these entities could be the first ones to connect and have an undue advantage over the rest. And you know, if I were to give you an oversimplified example of the same, it's like if you and I were to be betting during a game of Chennai Super Kings and Mumbai Indians. If you are watching it on Hotstar and I am watching it on TV, even if Hotstar's broadcast is one ball ahead, I will know that Dhoni will hit a 6 next because I will watch it first. So immediately, I will bet you 10,000 rupees on Dhoni hitting a 6, and because you would always be behind me, you will never be able to win the bet against me. Similarly, when the brokers got the data ahead of others, they were able to make a ton of profits as compared to the rest because they were able to bet on the best prices. This is how certain powerful brokers gamed the system to get early access to the data, eventually ended up having an unfair advantage of time and eventually money over the rest. This is how they made crores of rupees every single day. Now it's not like the NSE did not try to fix these problems at all. NSE actually introduced a load balancer by which these orders would be automatically allocated to the least crowded server. By April 2015, the NSE implemented the multi-broadcast TBD protocol, and as the term broadcast suggests, the data feed would now be disseminated simultaneously to all colocation brokers instead of a first-come first-served basis. So now, there was no longer any advantage of logging in first. But guess what? The smarter players still managed to game the system. The question is, how? As it turns out, NSE actually had a backup server to which these co-location brokers could log in if there was trouble with the primary servers. So some brokers would access this server regularly even with the primary servers working fine. So this way, again, the brokers were able to get the data before anyone else, and they were able to execute the trade faster because of very less traffic on the backup server. And once someone had access to the entire order book ahead of time, it was just raining profit for these brokers. And according to the whistleblowers, these players with this advantage were easily making between 50 to 100 crore rupees cumulatively every single day. And all of this happened during the tenure of two senior members who were in charge of the NSE, who are Ravi Narain and Chitra Ramakrishna. And the impact of this scam in our lives is that if you and I were investing in the stock market between 2010 to 2015, either directly or through mutual funds, if these transactions were done on NSE, there is a probability that we may have paid a slightly higher price while buying shares and received a slightly lower price while selling. And because this difference was as small as 15 paise or 30 paise, it was not big enough to arouse suspicion. But if you look at the total volume of trade, these rupees and paises were multiplying by crores with each passing day. Now the question is, amidst all of this, who is this Yogi Baba that everybody's talking about, and how is this connected to the scam? Well, long story short, SEBI chanced upon certain confidential emails between the then MD of NSE, Chitra Ramakrishna, and a certain yogi with this email ID between 2014 to 2016. The emails reveal that Ramakrishna shared confidential data about NSE's 5-year projections, financial data, dividend ratio, business plans, and even the agenda of the board meetings with this guru. Some say that Chitra Ramakrishna, who claims that she was in need of spiritual guidance, fell victim to this guru, while some believe that this is all a cooked up story just to protect herself in case she was caught. On top of that, Chitra Ramakrishna also appointed a guy called Anand Subramanian and out of nowhere made him the group operating officer of the NSE. And somehow, both the board of directors and SEBI did not take notice of it at all. Now, why this happened, how did they miss it, and who actually made money apart from the one seen in the news, we don't know. But what we know for sure is that SEBI needs to up its game because we are talking about the biggest stock exchange of India. And tomorrow, if another scam breaks out, it might wipe out thousands of crores of investor wealth within no time. And since normal people like you and I are in no position to act upon this, all we could do is stay aware and spread awareness about these mishappenings in the system. And that is exactly why we made this episode. So if this makes sense to you, please share this in your social circle. That's all from my side for today, guys. Please find all the sources to this episode in the description. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.